Hey guys, what is up? My name is David Nips. Thank you so much for taking a moment to check out this video where I'm going to be talking all about successfully launching your first podcast. So, no matter where you are in the level of online presence so far, whether you have a big email list, big social media following, potentially you have a blog that's already generating a lot of visitors, or potentially you're brand new and the podcast might be the first thing that you're going to tap in to build your online audience, this video is going to be for you because the tactics and the advice that I'm going to be sharing for successfully launching your podcast in this video is going to be for both sides. They're doable at scale. You might be able to do them at a small level or at a really high level, but either way, they're going to help take your podcast from 0 downloads to getting consistent return listeners and new listeners every single week. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into tip number 1. Tip number 1 is that you need to launch your podcast with 4 of your best episodes that you could possibly create. And when I say best episodes, I mean take the time to make sure they are perfectly edited. No errors, no missteps, nothing. Make sure they're perfectly edited. And of course, if you're brand new to podcasting, you need to make sure that you test that audio on your phone and listen to it with AirPods on the speakers in the car to make sure that that sound level is perfect. Another thing is that you need to make sure that this content is your best content ever. And what I mean by that is bring your best advice, bring your best stories. If you have anybody in your network that is a well-known guest that you know is going to bring the fire, invite them on to your podcast. And the reason for this is a lot of times when people launch a brand new podcast, right? Say you're going to be launching your podcast on January 4th, 2021. Okay, great. And you plan on releasing 1 new episode every week, every Monday morning. So they'll launch their podcast, they'll have that first episode there, but they'll only release 1. And what happens is you get all of this momentum of social media engagement. You might be sending in a couple emails out to your list, whatever it might be, but there's only 1 episode there. And that's not enough to draw people in enough to get them to subscribe, become connected to your brand, and want to come back on and on again. I'm sure some people will, but if you can release your podcast with 4 episodes, that's going to give them enough content that they can start binging on. And there's going to be a piece of content for everybody that's going to propel them into subscribing to your podcast. And what I mean by bringing on the best guests is because you're going to be launching a brand new podcast, think of the guests that are going to bring really, really relevant content to your followers. That's going to, like I said, bring the fire. But another thing is, think of the guests that you might be able to bring on that will promote your podcast to their network. It doesn't need to be somebody who's huge, but somebody who has a somewhat of a following that matches the audience that you're trying to attract. So the first 4 episodes are critical to making sure your podcast is a successful launch. Get the best content, get the best guests, make sure they're edited perfectly, and you will be on your way to successfully launching your podcast. Tip number 2 is that you need to have a social media and email launch plan. What I mean by that is you can't just go on social media the day of your launch, do a quick post or a video that says, brand new podcast, blah, 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 blah. You need to build momentum that this podcast is coming. All right, so if you plan on, like I said, launching January 4th, you should start sending emails a couple of weeks ahead of time, letting them know that this is coming. Give them little tidbits of information, get them excited, get them engaged so that they're waiting for January 4th when you're gonna be launching your podcast. All right? And the same thing on social media. You need to have posts going out with value, with different things that are going to get people excited towards that first episode. One quick pro tip that I have is if you visit a website called WAVVE, go on Google, type in WAVVE like wave, you can create little square videos that have little sound bites of your podcast. So if you do a 20-minute episode, go into Wave, do a little 60-second snippet, create a video that you can put on Instagram stories or Instagram feed, your Facebook feed, whatever it might be, and give them a little hot take from your podcast that's going to get them excited to want to listen to the whole thing. Build momentum towards that launch date. Don't try and get all the momentum the day of. You want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. Tip number 3, and this is one that literally anybody can do, warm audience or not, is come up with a Facebook advertising launch plan. And what I mean by that is, as you know, Facebook and Instagram, you might make a post, maybe 30, maybe 40% of your followers will actually see it, if even that. But what you can do is go into Facebook advertising and come up with a launch plan there. And there's 2 audiences that you should be targeting. Audience number 1 is go after your website visitors, your social media followers, and your email list. You can do this all within custom audiences of your ads manager. Come up with these three things so that anybody who knows who you are, that's followed you recently in the past, let's say maybe 60 to 90 days, is seeing ads that you have a brand new podcast. It's making sure that you don't have to rely on maybe a 25, if that, open rate on your email, or like I said earlier, a 30 to 40% reach rate on your social media posts. You wanna make sure everybody who follows you, who's on social media scrolling or anything like that, is seeing that you have a brand new podcast launched. That's audience number one. Audience number two is that you should create niche audiences within Facebook Ads Manager of people who would be interested in your podcast. So if you're somebody like me who's into digital marketing, teaching on podcasts and Facebook ads and websites and funnels and all of that great stuff, I might be targeting people who are interested in Gary Vaynerchuk or Neil Patel or different digital marketers out there who are training on this stuff, because I want to tap into their audience and let them know that I have a brand new podcast that I'm releasing. Right? So you should do the same thing. If you're launching a podcast on artwork, think of the different artwork brands and companies and influencers that you can target using Facebook ads to let their followers know that you have something related to what they're interested in. Or if you're somebody who's interested in golf, think of who are like the top 3, 4, 5 golfers that you can be targeting and letting them know that you have a brand new podcast talking all about this topic. Use Facebook ads to successfully launch your podcast. And if you're looking for more information on that, I did a video about 5 or 6 months ago, I'll link it right above here, that you can check out that goes a lot more in depth on podcast Facebook advertising. So these are 3 things that you can do that's going to make your podcast launch a success. Thing number 1 is make sure the first 4 episodes are released all together and they are fire. Tip number 2 is make sure that you have an email and social media launch plan ready to go so that when you launch your podcast, people know it's coming and they're already excited. They're trying to break down the doors just to listen to it. Tip number 3 is make sure that you have a Facebook paid advertising launch strategy so that you can tap into the entirety of your audience, and you can also tap into brand new audiences. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are looking for more digital marketing, entrepreneurial, small business videos just like this, go ahead and click that subscribe button down below, because I have new videos coming every single Monday morning. I'll see you guys at the next one.